there, and welcome to Hope Unscripted, a podcast of Hope Cancer Resources.
Here, we're having real conversations about cancer, from prevention and education to support, resources, and the stories that remind us that we are not alone.
And we're your host. I'm Jamie Dietrich.
And I'm Brittnee Harmon, and we're so glad you're here.
Now let's talk about hope, healing, and the journey.
Unscripted. Hi guys, welcome back to the Hope Unscripted podcast. I'm Brittnee. I am here with Leisha Atwood, who is our tobacco treatment specialist at Hope Cancer Resources, and she has been with us for a very long time. Leisha, why don't you tell me about what your title is and how long you've been with Hope?
I've been with Hope for 7 years, and I'm a tobacco treatment specialist and have a national certification in tobacco treatment practice and a certification through the American Heart Association for tobacco treatment as well.
Okay. So how do you go about getting some of those certifications?
There is there's like a 4-day training that you do just for your first certification. Mm-hmm. And then there's a test for the national certification. And then there's another test for the American Heart certification.
So you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time.
I was going to say, how many patients do you think you've seen over the years? Just give me a rough estimate.
Oh, it have to be a couple thousand for sure.
I can imagine. And then
that may be short of what it really is.
All of those patients, when they come to you, they're not always already cancer patients, are they?
No.
Okay. So what does that look like?
So some of the patients that I'm working with are community members. So just they live in the community. They are maybe high risk. They've been smoking for a long period of time, typically. And so they're able to come into the tobacco treatment and me work with them and help them quit. So hopefully prevent a cancer diagnosis. Okay. For their future.
And for the patients that are already struggling with cancer and some type of a diagnosis, do you see them as well?
Yes. So if anyone that lives in the 4 counties diagnosed with cancer, any type of cancer, or receiving treatment here in Northwest Arkansas, then also work with them and help them quit.
Does somebody who has cancer now versus not, is their treatment different? Like when you do their kind of a program, does that look a lot different?
Not a lot different.
Okay.
There is some time constraints that we have. So if I have a person who doesn't have a cancer diagnosis, I don't have as much time to spend with them as far as I'll do a 12-week program with them. So we'll do 3 months of the tobacco treatment, but it's still the same process as far as when I'm working with them. Mm-hmm. It's the same strategies, the same resources and that kind of thing when I'm working with both groups.
What made you want to go into this practice? I mean, this to me, whenever I started working with Hope, I had no idea that was something that was even offered. I had a husband who dipped tobacco for years, mm-hmm. and it would have been helpful to have somebody other than me nagging at him to quit. And luckily he finally did. It took a long time, but he finally did. But I'm just thinking what brought you to want to do that as a profession?
Well, Originally, I got trained in it and learned about it at a previous job. And I was helping people quit, but I didn't really have all the certifications. Mm-hmm. And really that to be able to kind of deep dive and really help them. So when this position came open at Hope Cancer Resources, it was kind of very specific, just doing tobacco treatment. And it was exciting to me, but also scary because I wasn't for sure if I knew what I was doing, but I didn't have those certifications yet. So then I was able to get those certifications, mm-hmm. learn more. I think it is very rewarding as well. Yeah. Being able to see somebody's life very changed in a way, when they're able to quit and break free of an addiction that they've had for so long.
Yeah. That's super impactful, honestly. And I would feel rewarded by that, to watch somebody I was able to help go through something. So, and even somebody who recently just started smoking and has decided that they don't want it, but their brain is triggered. So when tobacco hits your brain, let's go through that and what that looks like. Because people they get so absorbed in it, and there's so many different kinds. So what does that look like?
So you can become addicted very quickly within sometimes even just one use of a nicotine product. For some people, it may take a little bit longer, but essentially the nicotine is going to your brain within 7 to 10 seconds, especially if you're smoking it, because it's going through your lungs. So it's getting there very quickly. You do get kind of like a high, if you will, like where you feel this euphoria type feeling. And that's just where the nicotine is, when it's hitting your brain, it's binding to those receptors in your brain and then releasing those, I call them like feel good hormones, as far as like those
endorphins. Is that what it is?
Like dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin. So then that reward pathway is happening in your brain, and that kind of starts the whole cycle. For more.
Okay. So when tobacco is a very large topic, I feel like, because there's so many different kinds. What do you see as the biggest struggle?
As far as types of tobacco? That's hard. I would say it's almost becoming vapes. Now I feel like it's almost easier for people to quit smoking
because they can rely on that
than vaping. What I've found when I've been working with people recently is like, if they are vaping, they're using it so many times throughout the day that they're not even really aware of how much they're using it. So then when it's like, okay, it's scary to them to even just not have it in their hand.
It's like, I've seen people like anxiety driven because they can't find it, or they dropped it, or they left it at home, or it's in their car or something like that. So it's intense to think about relying on something so heavily like that. I saw a commercial recently, and it was a young girl laying in her bed. I only vape every once in a while, and I only have like one in my backpack and one in my car. And then it just like consumes her, because they don't realize how often they're doing it.
Yeah. I think most people that I talk to have like 2 or 3 and have backups, or they've like kind of like stockpiled, which people do that with other tobacco products too. But, I think there is like, because you're able to use it all the time and indoors, and, you know, even places that are considered non-smoking, sometimes they're still using them. The addiction and the dependence is even higher.
I mean, I've walked through Walmart and see people doing it in Walmart, and it just blows my mind, because that would never happen if you were smoking. You'd get thrown out so fast. And so I also think about the chewing tobacco, smokeless tobacco, and how even like the Zen pouches, people get addicted to those super easily too.
Yes. And that's like, I think, a new trend. Well, it's not really new anymore, but it is a newer trend when it comes to tobacco products. And that has like grown astronomically, like the sales have grown in the States. And so it's become very, very popular. And it's considered a tobacco product, even though it's made synthetically. So it technically doesn't have tobacco in it. But it has nicotine in it.
It's the same response that your body's getting.
Right.
But the health effects can be, if not worse, at least the same, right? Yeah,
you're still going to have some health issues from it. I mean, you're getting the nicotine, so that's one thing. So the addiction is there. A lot of people tend to have like issues with their gums and some of the dental stuff that you have with the smokeless tobacco too. So there's things that you have to be cautious with those.
And like I said, I do think about my husband, and whenever he was 14, probably when he started chewing tobacco, which seems so young, but now it seems to be younger and younger that you start to see kids vaping and things like that. But he did it. I mean, he would go through 2 cans a day at one point. And when we started dating, it didn't bother me because I couldn't smell it. So I would just let it go. And then I would get caught with the call, hey, can you pick me up a can of snuff? And it's annoying, but I don't have to smell it. So fine. You do you. And it's fine. And then the day that he decided he was just ready to try to give it up, he was able to get an herbal supplement. And it's not something you can buy over the counter, unfortunately. It was very frustrating. But I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it either in case it didn't work. So I order a few cans of it. Then he comes and he's already gone through these cans and he's hurting. And it is, because it is. You're literally, your body's going through a withdrawal.
Yes.
And by the time I was able to finally get him, he had finally stopped. And he's been tobacco free for almost 9 years. And so I'm very grateful that he's done that. But I know other people who've really struggled with it and gone back to it because they may be able to quit for a short period of time. But that linger is always there. And so when you see some of your patients, I know that they come back once or twice before they're ready. How often does that happen?
I would say pretty often. I'm going to have repeats. And for me, it's understandable because I know how the addiction works. Yeah. And I know, we're also human and we make mistakes and we mess up. And statistically, people are going to have 7 to 10 attempts at quitting before they successfully quit. Okay. And so I think what I also try to do is when I'm working with people is just normalize that a little bit so that there's less shame, less guilt of having to come back and do it again. Because and I always tell them too, just the fact that you're willing to try again is a big deal. Yeah. Because it's frustrating. Yeah. It's very frustrating for them.
Because they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But if your body is dependent on it, and there's some level of coping in that, right? If you're having really bad time in your life, going through a cancer treatment or a loved one going through that, even just regular daily stressors sometimes, I can imagine that's an easy thing to rely on that's there, not going to go away. So 7 times, that's shocking to me. I didn't realize it was that many.
I don't think people realize that. It's normal. I think a lot of people come to me and they're like, I've tried to quit so many times. What's wrong with me? Yeah. Why can I not quit? And it's nothing's technically wrong with you. Yeah. It's just, we haven't found the right way to quit yet. Or, the circumstances haven't been the way that they needed to be. Because you can't control everything. You can't control your stress. Or if something happens in your family or you get a cancer diagnosis, that's something that you can't always control. So I really work with them too, is how are we going to cope with things? What can we do to manage stress for the future as well?
So thinking about prevention for people, we talk a lot about the treatment of trying to get them to quit. Are you doing anything with their families too to try to prevent them from starting?
We don't really have any programs for prevention as far as with the family specifically. Yeah. But if a family member does use tobacco products and they want to quit, then we will help them quit too.
Just to support the one. Okay.
To support the one who's going through the cancer diagnosis. Sometimes the patient themselves is not a tobacco user, but maybe they live with a daughter or somebody that does smoke. And so for them being around it, if they're around secondhand smoke, that's obviously, something that you don't want them to be around when they're going through, in general, but when you're going through cancer treatment as well. So
for sure,
helping them stop so that patient is in an environment that's good for them as well.
Yeah. What would you say to people who would be seeking some prevention type things, or if they have a younger child, because that's the thing right now, all the vapes in school is a hot topic that I hear about all the time, even in the schools, and I have an aunt that's a counselor and she sees it sometimes. So how would you address a parent whose child might be struggling with addiction and they don't even understand or realize it?
Yeah. I think the first thing is even just having the conversation with the child about if they are using those products, because I think sometimes parents don't even know because they haven't paid attention. Yeah. And life happens and you're busy and you're doing lots of things. And also they're it's very easy to hide them. So that's the other thing. So I think just being aware and then having that conversation with the child about, how are they getting them? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Right. Yeah.
You can't buy them until you're 21. So, there's something happening there. But talking about the dangers of them, I think a lot of people don't understand the dangers, but also don't understand how addiction is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a hard conversation to have with a child or with someone, an adolescent. Sometimes they don't really understand like how much that's going to impact the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, and obviously my experience is different because I'm working with people all the time. Mm-hmm. But when you have someone on the phone that you're working with and they're crying because they want to quit so bad and they're addicted to something and they're struggling so hard with it, like sometimes I want to be able to share that with the younger generation of like, here is this whole generation who started when they were 10 or 11 and now they're finally working on quitting, and it's devastating for them how hard it is. Yeah. And like you have, a 15-year-old who's very flippant about it and like, oh, whatever. Yeah,
they think it's no big deal and they don't understand like,
yeah.
Wow. That's just crazy to me. I could not. It does scare me as a parent. Like at some point, he's going to get exposed to that. And I realize it's hard talking about, my husband did it too. So if my son does it, how do I address that? Because you don't want to be judgmental and you don't want to say, well, this is the worst thing ever, but it kind of is. So what would you suggest to somebody like that in that situation where as a parent trying to make sure that their kids don't do something like that, but they did it too? Like, is there anything that you can say to that?
I think really listen to your kid to like what they're saying. If there's any, are they dealing with anxiety? Are they dealing with things like that maybe that needs to be addressed? Or they're scared about something or they're nervous about something and they may be using a vape to help them deal with that instead of going to a trusted adult and talking to them about it. So maybe even just having those conversations. There are some great websites and things that are good for parents to help them like start those conversations with their children. And so I think that's always helpful.
Okay.
Is like just having maybe even some starting questions to help you get.
It's kind of opening that dialogue.
Open it
a little bit.
With your child. And
when you see like snuff, chewing tobacco users, is that harder sometimes because you don't smell it? Is that somebody like when you see a patient like that, is it harder to get them to quit?
It can be more difficult. I find with my patients or community members who use like snuff or smokeless that they typically use a lot of it. And sometimes it may be just because they're taking it out and putting new in, very often.
Consistently, yeah.
So they're going through a lot, but also the nicotine concentration is higher in smokeless tobacco. So usually the nicotine dependence is higher, like there's more dependence on it. I also think because it's in their mouth all the time, almost like it's just, they're so used to it. You put it in and you don't have to think about it.
It's like a comfort blanket.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's something that's always there. So they're not really having, like for someone who smokes, you have to make the effort to go get a cigarette, go and smoke. It's like you put effort into that. Yeah. And people do with smokeless too, but it stays in for so long. Sometimes it's like just there for.
And I feel like people can sneak that inside places pretty easily too. Like, it's a lot less noticeable at times unless you just got a giant wad of it in your mouth. But it sticks out like a sore thumb. Thinking about tobacco and cancer together, most people just automatically assume lung cancer, which it is a lot of that. But there's also so many other cancers that can be tied to as a carcinogenic. That's the right word. Edit that out. I didn't sound stupid. Okay. But thinking about all those different cancers, lung, mouth, it can be related to esophageal cancer, especially with the smokeless, I would feel like. I've read that pancreas, bladder, kidney, cervix cancer, cervical
Mm-hmm.
cancer, also stomach, liver, colon, like all of these can be increased risks. And then a lot of times, if you're smoking and you have one of these or using tobacco, your surgeon may not operate on you right away because of the healing. Do you have some patients that struggle with that, like where they're frustrated because they need to have their health taken care of, but they're struggling over here and they can't complete their treatment?
Yes, I would say that happens pretty often, where they may come to me or get referred to me and have a surgery coming up in a month or 2 months. And I've been told like I have to quit before this surgery and can't sometimes also not use any nicotine products. So no like patches or things like that as well. So it can be kind of a desperate situation where they're kind of like on a time frame as well. And I kind of hate that for the patient because I think it just increases all the anxiety that they're already dealing with. And then there's this anxiety that I have to quit and it has to be at this time or by this time or else I can't get the surgery that I need. So I think it's very frustrating for them.
For sure.
Yeah.
So whenever you see some of the patients that do already are impacted by cancer, is there any specific type of diagnosis you see more of? Or is it just kind of all over the board?
It's probably all over the board, but I do definitely see more lung, more head and neck, and more breast cancer probably than any.
Okay.
Obviously, I think lung and breast, there's something
top two in the country.
Yeah. So that kind of makes sense as well. But yeah, there's definitely some all different.
So yeah. Why is tobacco treatment such an important part of cancer support?
That's a big question because I feel like it's such a huge thing for the patient to be able to find help and to help them quit. Not only just the quitting part and the process of quitting, it's huge in helping them get to the point of quitting, but also just for their health when they're going through treatment to be able to feel better. Like if you're getting chemo and radiation, you're already going through, like your body's going through a lot already. Surgery as well, obviously, but your body's like getting hit constantly. And then if you're smoking on top of it, that's also going to make you just are automatically at a lower point. Like your immune system, your oxygen level, all those things are not going to be as good as they could be if you weren't smoking. So I think that's huge. And then also just like daily living stuff, like being able to feel good enough to get up and move around. A lot of people have shortness of breath when they smoke. So that helps them be more active when they're not dealing with that. If they're able to quit and then that decreases, they feel better, they have more energy. Quality of life is just so much better as well.
For sure. When you see some patients that are successful in it, do they ever come back to you and talk to you about it later on?
Every once in a while, I'll get like a random call. I got a random call from a patient not too long ago who called just to tell me like he still quit. And it really made my day. Because we'd worked together and he worked so hard on it and he did such a good job on quit. He was using Smokeless and he was using the Smokeless pouches. And so we worked through that process and he was able to quit. And it was
be
awesome.
Proud of him and he's proud of himself and needed to tell you. That's incredible. Those are the stories that we love to hear the most, and when they can be successful. Getting to that point can always be difficult, but just getting there. So is there anything else? So with Hope Cancer Resources, the people who walk in the door and if they want to go see Hannah at Wellness Center after they've seen you, and if they're feeling better to the point that they can do that, is that something you refer over just to get their bodies back?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if it's something that we've touched on, or maybe they've mentioned to me like that they want to do something or get more active, then I'll always recommend them to like the wellness center or even just encourage them to do their own thing too, if they can. Just getting out and walking and using exercise as a way to cope, because it does help like give you those same endorphins that you sometimes get, that you get from smoking. So it can be a good coping mechanism and also kind of like replacement for those endorphins. So
if someone's listening right now and considering trying to stop smoking or know someone that is, what would you say to them?
I would say try it.
Just give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Yeah. I would say find, reach out to us at Hope Cancer Resources. That's always an option. If you don't feel like doing that, find some sort of support system, whether that's like a friend or a family member. I think that's really big, is like having someone to support you through the process. And I do think someone who's trained in it, as far as like a tobacco treatment specialist, is optimal, because you get there's a lot of resources there with that person as far as knowledge and just like ideas and things that you can do to help deal with your triggers.
Some of the resources that you do offer, because I know it's the treatment itself, but then just that weekly support and some stuff like that.
Yeah. So I do weekly calls with people that I'm working with. We come up with a plan or type of strategy of like how we want to go through the process. We deal with the behavior side of it. So like habits, routines, triggers, things like that come up. And it's always very different with each person. And then also dealing with the withdrawal symptoms. Yeah. So in that case, we do provide nicotine replacements, nicotine patches, gum lozenges, things like that, to help make the withdrawal symptoms a little bit less difficult. It doesn't take it away completely, but it helps a lot. And then the one-on-one counseling that we do each week is just kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of like, okay, if a trigger is your back porch when you're having your coffee, how can we start to break those associations and work on? So it gets really, really detailed. And I think that's something that I like.
Habitual almost. Like if you do every single morning, go outside and do that, like that is an odd habit to have to break, because you still want to enjoy that. Yeah. But you got to take a little piece of it out. So that's good to know that that's there, and having that extra support person along with having a support outside of that as well. So if someone wants help, what should they do? Like right out the gate?
I would say if you want our help at Hope Cancer Resources, call us, go to our website, hopecancerresources.org.
That's it.
There is a tab for programs, I believe, as tobacco treatment. And there is an application on there that you can fill out. And once it's filled out, it comes to me and I can reach out to you and talk about getting started. If you want to do your own thing, there's also like the state quit line. There's Arkansas Be Well, who does tobacco treatment stuff as well. So I think the main thing is just get a plan together. Like one step, even if it's something really small and simple, even if it is, I'm going to wait 10 minutes after eating before I have my first cigarette. Yeah. Like, even if it's just something like that, just work on that, accomplish that, and then, set your next.
Starting small. You don't have to rip the Band-Aid all the way off.
It doesn't have to be a cold turkey. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is like they want it so fast and quick, and which I understand. And a lot of people want to just, take it, be done, throw them away, which sometimes that works. Yeah. But sometimes you just need to take a little step.
Yeah. So, well, we've got about a minute left. Is there anything else you want to add to our lovely tobacco talk today?
I would say, don't be embarrassed to ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. And I think there's a lot of fear for people when they use tobacco products that they're going to get shamed or treated differently, possibly, or even just told, like, you should have already quit, like, what are you doing, kind of thing. So I think just understanding that, don't have fear that you're going to get shamed.
Yeah. People are judgmental, and that's just part of life, unfortunately. But knowing that you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And you don't. If you want to see us at Hope Cancer Resources, Leisha is the lady, and she will take good care of you. Well, Leisha, thank you so much for helping talk about such a big topic, because I know it can be very controversial for a lot of people, and trying to understand how tobacco is really affecting people's bodies, smokeless or not. Conversations like these are how we spread cancer awareness and just overall health awareness as well. So we want to keep these conversations going as long as we can. Thank you guys so much for listening to Hope Unscripted. I hope we see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to Hope Unscripted.
Join us next time as we share real stories, meaningful resources, and reminders that you're not alone.
Until then, keep choosing hope.